So this is also getting streamed on YuppTV, also on YouTube and Facebook handles, right, Manisha? So.
Yes, Uday, it's getting streamed on YouTube, Facebook, YuppTV, our channels as well, yeah.
Kind of, this is the first webinar directly involved. Rather, I participate in other webinars, but
yes.
so Manisha, why don't we do first panel discussions and then presentations? Or
We can do that, Uday, but yeah, I mean, we just thought it'd be relevant if you could start off, but yeah, up to you.
okay, fine, I'll do it. So we are good to go.
I'm just waiting for tech team to give me a go ahead. So sorry, just another minute, like minute or so, yeah. Okay, so we'll be starting now.
Okay.
So hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Manjusha and I'm part of the Turito team and here as your moderator today. I'm joined here by our speakers, Mr. Uday Reddy, founder and CEO of YuppTV and Turito, Mr. Durga Prasad Kunta, Global Program Head of Turito International, Mr. Vasu Reddy, co-founder and CEO of RiseSharp, and Ria Reddy, a recent high school graduate and future student of Stanford University. Mr. Radha Krishna, Program Head of Turito India, has conveyed his sincere apologies as he won't be able to join us in today's session due to his personal emergency. We are here today to get an expert's perspective of one can make into Ivy Leagues. Before getting into the specifics, let me offer a quick introduction about the speakers of the event. I want to start by introducing Mr. Uday Reddy, the visionary behind the world's largest South Asian OTT platform, YuppTV, and the recently launched EdTech giant Turito. Mr. Uday Reddy comes from a remote town in India and has always dreamed of providing quality education to everyone in the world. The idea became the cornerstone for Turito, which has earned its place in the Indian market and is now offering its services to the students internationally, including US. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Uday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our second speaker is Mr. Durga Prasad Kunta, the Global Program Head of Turito. Mr. Durga Prasad had finished his BTech, BA Triple Math, BEd, MPhil and MBA and also diplomas in child psychology, general medicine and dietology in the US, and also educational management in the UK. Mr. Durga Prasad has worked as a Chief Educational Officer at United Nations Organization and has tremendous experience in guiding thousands of students to the world-renowned universities such as Harvard, MIT, and many more Ivy Leagues. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Durga Prasad. Also joining us all in the discussion today is our guest speaker, Mr. Vasu Reddy, the co-founder and CEO of RiseSharp, a company that helps college students and graduates in the transition from college to career. Mr. Vasu is a regular guest speaker in many colleges and is an expert on helping students make the right career choices. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Vasu.
Thank you.
And finally, to offer a student's perspective on getting into Ivy Leagues, we have Reddy joining us in this webinar. Ria is a recent high school graduate who will be attending Stanford University this fall, and her academic interests lie in international affairs and Middle Eastern studies. Thank you for joining us today, Ms. Ria.
Thank you for having me.
This webinar is a part of the outreach program by Turito for the students who are looking for a bright future and parents who dream of giving their kids the best education. Turito is an EdTech platform that is now offering SAT ACT coaching along with the foundation courses with 360-degree counseling for students who dream of getting into the best colleges in the US. So now we'll have Mr. Uday take us through the unique value proposition of Turito. So over to you, Mr. Uday.
Thanks, Manjusha. Thanks everyone for taking time out on Saturday, and also thanks panel for joining us and taking time out. Just before starting Turito, I just want to give my vision. What is the reason behind starting Turito? So education has always been the passion. When I started Yupp for entertainment as an OTT, education was always on my mind, but it was more a non-profit initiative which I wanted to do in India to basically support the economically backward students and adapt them and find a way to provide a quality education so that they could get into the top schools. So what happened was in India, we are launching our OTT with BSNL. So BSNL asked that, hey, why don't you guys put an education program for us to reach the rural students? And that's what it has started the plan. And then COVID happened. It was not because of COVID we are launching this. We have the plan was started just before the COVID. But the idea is actually we took a lot of time to come out with the program. With the COVID in the current situation, things have completely changed. And as a parent myself, I have gone through my elder son going into the college. I have realized, how we have missed out so much as building his profile very early stages. So one, as a parent, what is the criteria which I have missed out for my kids was one segment. Second segment, how do we democratize education in India? See, coming from Warangal town, where we never had an opportunity to top, teaching for IIT. So how do we bridge the gap? So between the two, and then the COVID happened. During the COVID, we initially thought we'll go like a Yupp platform, like an entertainment, give live streaming of the education. But what we have realized is significant gap for the school kids in terms of the focus, attention, interactivity. So we stepped back and said, no, let's not launch. We will sit and really identify what are the gaps for India and US market. So now coming to the focus market, what is the concern is the schooling here in the top Ivy schools, unlike India, the profile starts from very early. If you want to differentiate into Ivy schools, what is the kind of profile you need to build straight from 6th class, whether it's extracurricular, leadership, AB classes, grades, all of that is one segment. Second segment, we have seen, I myself is seeing my kids, going online, and there's attention is an issue. There's no interactivity, teachers teaching on Zoom, and they're all. So what we have put together a platform where we want to completely make it very interactive, very engaging, and gamify it so that kids have, while learning, they also enjoy doing this, and also build every personalized AI ML based testing. When you test the kid, it should be very personalized way of recommendation, how the kid can improve. And most importantly, the offline and online, building a platform to give same offline experience is what was the objective. So we took 4 or 5 months thinking through what is the right way to do it. Because if you go Zoom or if you go Teams, then again, the learning management system is sitting somewhere. So we thought we should integrate everything as one platform to make it very, very interactive. That was the one objective we have achieved. Second was how do we plan the kids? As a parent, myself being an entrepreneur, missed the opportunity of how to build a profile for my son. And with studying in India, we thought 11th, 12th is the time to prepare for IITG. So we focused on that 2 years, and then we get to the top schools. But what we realized is there is a different way of methodology in the US, where the basic, of course, the grades and the standardized tests are definitely the must. That takes the highest priority. But having said that, how do you differentiate with various, academic, extracurricular, and also we don't want to stress the kids directly in 11th, 12th, preparing for ACT, SAT. So if you start very early, that is the objective we could achieve. So we've talked to students, we've talked to teachers, we've talked to, and I've put together the faculty like Durga Prasad sir. He's actually ran the global ACT SAT program from India, getting a lot of kids into the Ivy school. So that's where we spend a lot of time. And also one of the objectives which I wanted personally is, Yup, we always have achieved a very small ethnic Indian segment. This time we want to operate from India with a combination of India and US, address the global test prep segment. So we are very focused on 5th class to 12th only. That is the focus of this platform. And so I can, Mansha, I can go to so basically just to summarize we're not compromising, we're making sure we have the top-notch faculty, very interactive, and I think we can go in the next slide, yeah. So this is the challenges into Ivy Leagues. Most of the parents, of course, the parents who are very focused like Vasu and who's in the space, they know exactly when to crack it. And a lot of parents like me who are busy, it's a first experience, so we missed. So to do that, we thought, this is a good platform, identify what are the things. And even public school to, the counseling help is very minimal in the schools. It's a ratio because it's being a public. So these are the challenges we identified, and how do we fill the gap. And I was also speaking to some of my friends from college whose kids are going to private schools, like from 9th and the Philip Sexter, and a couple of some of those are feeder schools. And I found out interestingly that Indian kids, it's a 50% take on to the Ivy school. But the reason is their curriculum is such a way from 9th to 12th gives that opportunity to get into the Ivy schools. And the Ivy schools also know these are the feeder schools. The curriculum is such a way that they can handle the college courses. So our objective here is for all the parents and kids who are going to go to the public schools, give the post-school platform to fill this gap and prepare the kids well ahead to get into the top Ivy schools. Okay, next slide. Yeah, so basically, after a lot of research, and then we want to do an early planning, build a student profile from 6th grade onwards. Like, the math and English, from 6th itself, you build the basics right, so that, by the time you come into 10th, 11th, you have covered all of the math and science. And also, mostly importantly, is prepare child for outside world. What I'm trying to say, being an entrepreneur, when I need to hire talent for technology, even for undergrads from US or India, there is a gap. See, I want a fresh grad to have a Scala developer. The gap is huge because the undergrad education in India or in US, there is a gap between what the corporate world is looking versus what they're offering. So we want to build that kind of a curriculum also into the system where, if the kid is interested in programming, coding, if the kid is interested in robotics, or could be public debate, or could be AI. So some of those outside world requirements, when we go to the real world, we want to introduce at a very basic level so the taste is built and they can take it very well in the undergrad. And all of this we will do only from 6th to 9th, and from 10th class grades will be extremely focused on ACT, SAT, AP classes, or to get into IB. So that's the whole objective of the platform. Okay, Mansha, next slide. So basically, just a unique offering is this course we will be structuring from 6th to 12th, a very minimal batch of 20 kids in each batch, and it will be started sometime in December, end of January when for the courses. Then the one-to-one tutoring. One-to-one tutoring is, when we realize that after taking the exams, the kids need a personalized attention from teachers to improve. Let's say some kid is not understanding organic chemistry or calculus. We will build in enough credits to have a one-to-one tutoring. Also, if some parents want special attention and they want to go straight one-to-one also, we would give that. Then guidance with the college will start introducing the college counseling from very early, from 7th, 8th grade, so that they understand that when we get there, they have all the profile built. So most of the situations, we end up parents finally realizing that in 11th, oh, I have to have extracurricular. Now what do we do? So we generally go quickly, do some non-profit, and it's kind of creating a profile just for the college applications. Instead, we go, this way. And in terms of educators, we are not compromising the quality. Whether it is US or India, we will pick up the top 1% educators so that the best quality of education is provided. And the best part of it is this is online, so we can pick up the best teachers from any part of the world. And we have a very rigorous test process to recruit the educator, the presence, the experience, all of that. We are going through a strict process to select the teachers. And I think we've got, can you go to the next slide? So this is a high level we're putting together starting from 6th, 7th, 8th, freshmen. So what is that which we need to introduce the programs so that you are well prepared for the IB schools and not end up like in 6th and 7th, give a strong math foundation, and then, take an ACT SAT where you can go to Duke programs, after 7th. And also in 6th and 7th, we will ensure that your school courses are the #1 priority, but we have not kept it here, but having the grades is also very important. Coming to 8th class, there are exams like SSAT and ISC. This is a very, very competitive exams for private school entrance exams. So most of the students who compete are above average, but at least the kids who are in the public schools or under Turito platform, we want to go the kid to take through this test so that it is actually an equivalent or more tougher than ACT SAT. So the kids are already prepared at 8th grade how to address the standardized tests. Then coming to freshmen, giving the complete aspect of having an AP class. How do you do what kind of community service? What kind of leadership? Each student will be identified with their personalized passion and given the counseling along with the math and English coaching, and also their specific subjects close. Same thing in the sophomore year, you have the PSAT, which is another way of testing yourself before go to SAT, ACT. Very focused on AP classes because the schools really take the grades from freshman year. So academics combined with SAT, ACT classes, and then combining the extracurricular leadership to prepare, for the kids for the college application. But again, this is at a very high level. We are doing an extensive research, so there will be clear course curriculum built for every grade, and we'll be presenting in the next 2 weeks. Next slide. So the same junior is very, very, very focused on preparing for exams, preparing for college applications, AP classes, and internships guidance on what internship based on kids' interest. So that way, this is the way we would put together. And when coming to seniors, is a straight college application process, and we will collaborate with someone like Vasu's company who have been in there for a decade, helping the kids to the top school. So it's not that Turito will do all of that. Some of them could come from who are expert in this space, specific to college counseling or robotics or coding. We might partner with one of the best guys, but will be part of the course curriculum to ensure the best is provided to the students in this by Turito. Okay, next slide. Yeah, I think we've already covered. Next slide, Manisha. Comprehensive learning platform we have built. So it will be a two model. One will be the master teacher. The master teacher will be really identified whether US, India, and then you have a teaching assistant which will address specifically the doubts. The best part is online classes, but very completely gamified. Parent and teacher dashboard. Like parent will get every day what is student grade, attendance, how is he performing, how many minutes watched, what is all kinds of metrics are provided, and instant doubt clarity. So the students, the teachers available from morning 6 to 11 p.m. in the night. If there is a homework support, if there's any doubt, there is a instant doubt clarification support. The testing module is completely AI machine learning based, so it will be personalized testing. Recommendations are provided to the kids where the gaps are. The gaps should be filled. And video on demand assets is like, we will be very curating really nice on demand assets to explain the concepts. Like if it's a digestive system or anything, a very small 5-minute video which is clear for kids to understand the basics. So before coming to the live classes, they will also have a basic video assets which will be built in-house mostly, but also we'll probably do some partnership. We give a complete learning platform, and all the metrics of the students are captured from a attendance, grading. Even if the kid is on the laptop, if he's opening other, we will have the control on what is attention of the student at that place. So every 3-4 minutes, once the teacher completes the concept, we will be taking the quizzes. So it is always interactive, both ways. Unlike you're just teaching and you don't know what is happening with the students. And every action taken by student is gamified, and they will put together a badges and a reward system for the kids to motivate. So this is and we have completed almost 20%. We would be completing the entire office by end of October. We should have everything up and running by November. Okay, next slide, Manisha. Yeah, this is like, asking the questions in between while teaching and get the gamified. Okay, next slide, Manisha. Yeah, so this is the to do a on-demand asset, conceptualize, script, storyboard. So the student will get really in 5 minutes the concepts explained in a very 2D and 3D way. That way the basics are understood from day one. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah, today if you see any testing modules, LMS, most of them are very, just you take the test, you will be given the report saying that you have scored this much, this is correct, this is incorrect. That's all. But what we will be doing is we will be putting the machine learning. The more and more student database comes in, we'll create a personalized test. We'll have an adaptive learning where if the kid is answering the hard, we'll give more tougher. So that way, it's completely personalized testing module. Okay, next slide. Yeah, so we will assess the student assessment, and reports is very, very critical, which will give you lot of recommendations both to the parents and students, and accordingly based on the assessment we will push what material to study.
Yeah, Uday, we're not able to hear you. Hello? Looks like there's some technical glitch. Please give us 2 minutes. I think Uday will just join us back. Okay. Meanwhile, let's just begin the forum discussion. I think Uday is almost done. I think he's covered pretty much everything. So, we'll open the forum for discussion, and let's begin our first question to Mr. Durga Prasad. Mr. Durga Prasad, as a global program head for Turito, can you share your perspective on the courses offered, and when should the student actually start preparing to get into Ivy Leagues or top colleges? Uh, Mr. Durga, I think you're on mute, Mr. Durga Prasad. Can you please unmute yourself? We're unable to hear you.
Yeah, sorry, Manshur. Yeah.
Yeah.
Firstly, I would like to answer, when should a child start preparing for these kind of examinations, particularly for Ivy Leagues? So before one starts preparing for an exam, I strongly believe there should be a idea that should be formed in the mind of child. And a child should be made to set a goal. This is very, very important. Without a goal, if a student tries to prepare for something, they don't reach the point where they should, or the parents are aspiring. So if a goal is set, then it becomes the aspiration of the child. If goal is not set, it is the aspiration of parent. So I strongly believe first the starting point should be to create the goal in the mind of the child. And second step is to create the interest in the child, and then concept building, how to apply the concepts to a question. This is called as skill development, we call.
Mr. Durga Prasad, sorry to interrupt you in between. We're not able to hear you well. Can you be a little louder, please?
Yeah.
Thank
Am I
you.
audible now? Is it clear?
Yeah, slightly better. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, before we talk about the preparation for exams, the first and foremost thing is that a child should be made to set a goal for him or her. Without a goal set, a child cannot do anything. So that means they are going in a direction or on a path where there is no direction for him for future, him or her for future. So this goal should be set for the child, and interest need to be created among the children first, and the concept building and application of that concept that is being taught to the child. That means these things cannot be built at a later stage when child is pressurized with higher level educative system and all. So it should start somewhere around 6th class or 7th class. There was a time where students, if I take India's perspective, like students used to start for IITs somewhere in 10th or 11th. But nowadays, for the past 10 to 15 years, if you take, they are starting from their young age of 6th class. So people used to think, can a student of class 6, can he or she take so much of pressure of IIT's preparation? But students, those who start early, are achieving big, and they are really doing good in these kind of examinations. So even I suggest the same thing to the parents. Of course, I'm seeing many parents nowadays, particularly Indian parents, if I see, are really very curious of bringing their children into these kind of competitive examination systems at their young age, even from USA. Therefore, to create this goal setting and to create the interest and to build up the concepts in the child, I strongly believe that students should start their involvement into these kind of systems from their 6th class onwards. Secondly, now the student, when they are put on this system, we should make them comfortable towards these kind of examinations, and preparations. This is very important. Unless a child, see, when we are bringing them early into this system, if they are not comfortable, over a period of time, they lose the interest and they may not really continue in positive note. So this part is very, very important in case of any child. Then comes the serious preparation. So for all these, it may take 1 or 2 years, means sixth and seventh classes. This all will take 2 years. So child will spend for all these developments 2 years. Then actual preparation starts from 8th class onwards. But if somebody asks me, if this is only for preparing the mind of a child, building of concepts, building up of the techniques or skill development in the child, why don't I start from class 8? See, it's simple. If I say, if a student is not taught alphabets, and if he or she is asked to work on with words or sentences at some stage, it's really not that comfortable situation for the child. Same way, these 6th and 7th classes, whatever I said just before, they are like alphabets. Then 8th class preparation may be like words in this direction. Then comes your serious preparation of SAT, then ACTs, and at a later stage, maybe APs, subjective SAT, and so on. So a child, once they start involving themselves into this, then start taking tests, they may face success or failure or whatever it is. They should be given enough courage, they should be given enough knowledge of facing these things or techniques of facing these things and being successful. So these all definitely takes time for building. Now, when I talk about these points, many parents, like if I say the target is Ivy League College or a school, many students are afraid. Many parents are really afraid whether the child can really face those situations and come out successfully or not. So when we talk about these things, why a student or parent should be apprehensive about themselves? Why don't they believe themselves? Means I'm talking about student. And I want parent to believe their children. So when a child believes themselves and parent believes their kids, and if child starts involving and parent starts encouraging, giving them all the necessary coaching and the support system, whatever is needed, why can't a child do it? Then why should I think whether my child can reach Ivies or not, or a better university, any top 100 universities of the world? So why should I think first itself? Let me put an effort. Effort is very important. Somebody who puts effort, if not day one, at least day two, they succeed. So I want a parent and student to involve themselves, student put an effort, parents support the student, and keep on working. Now, the third point in this direction is, when we talk about Ivy Leagues, everyone talks about the scores, highest scores. Should I get 1500 plus, or should I get 1600 out of 1600 in SAT, SAT, or what should be the minimum score? And all these things means people mostly think of only scores, but score alone does not give them a seat in an Ivy college or an Ivy university. So they need to have something called as credentials. So credential building is very important for any child. So when I talk about credentials, it could be academic credentials, it could be social credentials, or sports area, or extracurricular, co-curricular. There are so many areas where a child need to build up their profile. So for all these things, we cannot do it in a year or two. So we need to train the child, we need to give them guidance, we need to ensure the child builds up all those inherent characters that are required for all these things. So a child cannot grow in a day or two. So we need to give them sufficient time to grow in all these directions. So for all these things, definitely a child should be given sufficient time. So starting from 6th class onwards is very, very important issue and very good thing. Now, as I said again, if parent feels that child will be under pressure, our Turito system does not put a child into stress. We have, along with these all build up like concepts or academic part or non-academic or profile building activities, whatever it is we are doing at their level or age groups or grades, we are also focusing on the psychology, because psychology plays an important role. If I believe, yes, I can do this and I'm strong on it, definitely I can achieve. If I don't believe that I can do it, then definitely I cannot do it. So it is a mind game. Of course, just mind game does not help a child, but at the same time, the strengths are also needed. So what we are doing is at Turito, not only these academics and extracurricular, co-curricular, etc., whatever I spoke, not only those things, we are also controlling the mind of child through our psychology sessions. We call them as energy boosters. Now, to reach these scores, we have built up some very nice content system wherein, like, I teach some 20 questions in today's class. So these 20 questions are based on different concepts. Now, if the student does not work at home on the concepts that I'm teaching in the class today, student may not get enough practice to really work on and reach their goals. Therefore, what we are doing is we are giving them DPPs, daily practice papers, which covers all the questions or the concepts that are being taught today in the class. So a child does not miss any concept, or they do not miss working on those concepts, questions on those concepts. Now, many people get a doubt. This is an online platform. Can an institute really watch what student is doing or not? So we have very good observatory system wherein, sitting in Hyderabad in India, I can tell what some ex-student is doing in USA, somewhere in the remote village or a district or any state. So I can see how many questions the child has tried, how many questions child could complete, how many of them were right, how many of them were wrong, how much time each child has taken to work on that question, and how many students did that question right, which the student is doing right or wrong, and whether that question is done correctly by many students or wrong by many students. So many analytics like that. And the time the child is consuming per question and all these things. I can observe every day-to-day work of the child, and our counselors will talk to the child, they talk to the parent, and they alert the child and parent if the student is not able to really cope up with these things. So I ask parents, if this much system is existing with us in observing the child's work, which student will not reach the goal? Is any non-online platform or the students where they are attending direct classrooms, are they really getting this much work checked? So it's impossible. So definitely, when this much support when we are giving to the child, I'm sure they can reach the peaks. Now, the third thing, every day a child is working on some questions. So a child should understand or know where they are standing in today's concepts that are being taught. If they are made to realize that, they can rectify the deficits or mistakes or whatever it is, and they can grow. So for this, we have self-practice tests. Mr. Uday was talking about this part also, wherein he said they start with some level, then next level, next level, next level. They can reach the peaks. So level by level, they can increase. This is what Mr. Uday was talking about, the system of testing, self-testing system. And apart from that, like, to get these books and all, a student may run from here and there to get a reference book, but there is no need for any Turito student to run for books. We have all the books available in our library, and all the questions being solved in terms of digital content and in terms of video lectures, which Mr. Uday has already mentioned about Ask a Doubt and other techniques that we are using. So this is the amount of support we are giving to students. Now, coming to your question, how many marks a student should score in SAT to get into IVs? So generally we say 1500 plus, but even somebody who got even 1450 got seat. I had a student by name V.S. Arun. He never scored. He tried twice, but his highest score in SAT was only 1390. Later on, of course, this is a thing which only we did. I don't know how many of them know about this point, but we prepared a 3-minute video on laser cooling, and that was posted in Breakthrough Junior Challenge, portal, wherein this has gone through 8 stages, and he got a 2.5 lakh scholarship and as well as a seat in MIT. So such things are also there, wherein we are supporting students. Then right from beginning onwards, we should create ideas on studying in the best colleges, what benefits they get by studying in those colleges. And these type of things, if they are created, a student thinks more and more about them and they start preparing to reach those universities. So even those ideas will create, not only creating ideas, we are also helping students build their profiles. We are also helping guiding the students, like which college could be better one for their ambitions or aspirations. And we are also processing the application. We are also taking them to the different universities. These are all the supports we are giving, Patricia. So
Thank you, Mr. Durga Prasad. So the next question is for Ms. Ria. So Ria, firstly, congratulations on getting into Stanford. And as a student who got into one of the top colleges in the country, can you take us through your preparation process and your experience so far?
Yeah, thank you. I think in terms of standardized testing, so SAT or ACT, I think it comes down to kind of 2 sections. There's the content learning and then there's practice. So in terms of content learning, you can take, or at least I took classes to be able to learn the content that's going to be on the test itself, because it's not necessarily the same stuff that you learn in school. So it's learning the content catered towards exactly what's going to be on the SAT. And then it's just a lot of practice questions. So I took practice tests every weekend, did a lot of practice problems leading up to the date that I took my SAT, and that kind of helped me prepare the best. And then in terms of beyond that, so I think at a first layer, it's like test scores plus GPA for kind of creating your college admissions like portfolio. So like test scores would be SAT, and then GPA is like just the grades that you're getting in class. So for that, it's just keeping on top of all your assignments, making sure you're scoring high on all your exams in school. But I think the second layer of kind of developing a college profile or a college application is your essays and extracurriculars. I think it's important to have a lot of development outside of the classroom as well. So I did like some volunteering. You can do like different types of clubs. You can do programs during the summer. Essentially, you just want to be able to show these colleges that you have interest kind of outside of school, or you're taking that extra step to pursue these interests outside of school. So for example, some of the things that I did was I was in debate club all throughout 4 years of high school. So that kind of helped me build communication skills and leadership skills. And it was also competitive, like a competitive program in the sense that we went to competitions and things like that. So that's one thing I was able to put on my college application. But given my interest in international affairs, I also made sure that you want to make sure that a lot of your activities have to do with what you're interested in academically, because it kind of creates this storyline. So some of the things that I did to do with international affairs were I studied abroad in Tajikistan under this scholarship that I got from the State Department. And then I also worked under the World Affairs. So kind of I just worked on pursuing clubs and extracurriculars that aligned well with my interests, along with keeping up my GPA and then preparing for tests.
Thanks, Ria. And another question for you. So with respect to the admission process, what do you think these universities specifically look at for a student's profile?
Yeah, I think it's kind of two things. Of course, it's hard to really pinpoint exactly what they're looking for because that changes every year. And, they're not looking for one specific type of student, but some things like in general that I think they look for are one, they want to see like academic strengths because they want to make sure that you can succeed at their school or their institution, that you can keep up with classes, that you can get good grades there. And one way that they can do that is test scores are really the only way they can, it's like a standardized way of comparing students. So that's one thing that they look at is test scores because they can compare students across completely different areas as these tests are identical. But also, again, they're looking for students who seem like they're interested in learning, students who want to pursue their interests outside of school. So you kind of have to do more than just get good grades and do well on all your standardized tests, but you also need to get into clubs, you need to get into extracurriculars, you really need to do that extra step of pursuing all of your interests outside of school and putting in your own work because they want students that are not only motivated, but also have a lot of experience in something that they're interested in. And then lastly, I think the biggest component of the admissions process is essays. They want students who are not only well equipped with writing skills and can kind of make an argument with whatever they're writing, but they also want students who are creative. So they don't want every student, they want someone who won't write about the same thing. They want students that are going to write about unique things. And I think those are the three main kind of pillars for what admissions officers are looking for.
Sure. So the next question is from Mr. Vasu. You've been leading a company that helps college students and graduates in their transition from college to career. So what's your experience while talking to the parents, and what are the challenges that you usually see with, training them or, helping them with their career? We would like to hear from you. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Manjusha. An excellent question. The RiseSharp, which is, as you mentioned, is a company specifically focused on India market. In India, at a very high level, about 70% of college graduates, the day they collect the certificate or a degree, do not have an outcome in hand. An outcome could be a job, outcome could be, the future, educational plans. So the 70% is a very high number. It is a problem for the parents, students, educational institutions, but it is a majorly problem for the country and the society. So our goal is to really fix that problem. And there are a lot of parallels between what Turito is trying to do, Uday is trying, you all putting together on the high school side, from helping a student transition, through elementary school or middle school to high school to college. What RiseSharp does is from in India specifically, from college to career. There, the biggest root cause of that 70% not having an outcome in India is actually a simple. In Indian educational system, you have a very well laid out academic pathway that will tell you for a specific degree, whether it's a BCom, BTech, MBA, and anything in between, what courses do you take in which semester? What tests do you take? How much do you need to score to pass and move forward? And what break you take and how many years you repeat that process? And it produces, just like a factory produces a car, manufacturing factory produces a car, it produces a good, solid educational degree certificate. What's missing from Indian educational system is the reason why they're not having an outcome the day they collect the certificate. And Uday alluded to it earlier. It is a societal problem, especially when you go to outside of these metro areas. The outcome problem is not 70; it's close to 100% or 95%. So the root cause is a lack of a career pathway for that student. Means, to have a successful outcome, your best friend is the time. Means you have to utilize the time while in college, to build the things that corporations are looking for, the job market is looking for. Those are on the employability skills side and the job search side. So our goal at RiseSharp is basically kind of very similar to what Uday is trying to do on this side, is to really take them from college to an outcome or a job or a professional world.
Thanks, Vasu. That was quite insightful.
Manisha, can I ask a question to
Yeah,
Vasu?
yeah, sure. Please, Uday, go ahead. Yeah.
So Vasu, you have a massive experience in the US as a owner of a college counseling company, helping students fill the college applications. From that perspective, can you give the guidance to the parents and to the panel? What is the experience you've gone through, the various students, coming to you in the last minute of the applications, and where are the gaps, and any advice in general?
So thank you for good question. I think Mr. Durga Prasad touched on quite a few things. What is fundamentally required. So let me when someone talks about the Ivy Leagues, what it is fundamentally it's an aspirational goal. The reason you talk about Ivy Leagues is these are the universities that are set up over 400 years ago. For example, Harvard was set up, over 400 years ago. It's one of the first, universities in the country. Have built, a strong, capabilities. So it doesn't mean just those 8 universities, because they all 8 have their own characteristics and all. So, but when Turito or anyone talks about Ivy Leagues, you're talking about that aspirational goal. And as Mr. Durga talked about in detail, is if you don't have a goal, an aspiration, then you don't know where you are heading. So you have to have that, have a certain aspiration. The goals can change, and they will change as you go through the high school. They change as you go through the college. They change as you evolve as you go through the life. So to coming back to your question directly is, so fundamentally what you see, the biggest challenge is when someone comes to someone like a Span 1 college counseling to work with one of our counselors, or when I have a conversation with a parent or a student who's in high school, is the lack of time. Unfortunately, they think of these too late. When you don't, for example, let's look at from the India perspective, RiseSharp. When you look for a job, the first thing you need to have is a resume. And the resume has to have a content on it. It's not a blank paper. Similarly, when you're trying to get into higher education institutions like Ivy Leagues or like top universities, what you look for is a profile. And to build that profile, just as to build the resume, you need a time and a plan. So to answer your question, I think the biggest thing I see when I talk to parents and students, especially those who are in the high school, is that they don't have enough time to really build and reflect on their goal that they set themselves up for right now. So what I would say is to go back. Earlier you plan, better it is. The planning doesn't mean your goals don't change. They will continue to evolve, but the planning gives you a framework to execute on some of the things, Ria touched on, to be able to build that path, like the storyline.
Thanks, Vasu. Thanks a lot.
So back to Ria again. Ria, can you tell us more about the scholarship you have received? I think a lot of the students might want to know. And yeah, it'd be helpful if you can give us some insights.
Yeah, so the scholarship was called the National Security Language Initiative for Youth. I can also type it in the chat after so everyone can search it up for reference. But it was essentially a language scholarship given by the State Department. So there was a pretty extensive application process where I wrote essays and I had an interview and everything like that. And then kind of a small group of students are selected from all those that apply, and they're sent to some location to learn that country's language for 7 weeks. And while they're living there abroad, they're also living with a family and kind of like absorbing the culture and learning the language. So for my program, I went to Tajikistan, which is in Central Asia. So that's kind of close to China and Afghanistan. So I went to Tajikistan and I was learning Persian, which is similar to Farsi. And I was there for 7 weeks and I stayed with the family there. And I think that was something that was really important when it came down to my college application process, because it was kind of that like it was kind of that peak of all of my activities I did throughout high school. This was my last biggest activity that I did right before I began the college admissions process and started writing my application. And so I think it was helpful in not only showing my commitment to what I was interested in, but being able to learn a new language and kind of explore international affairs, which is something I want to do like career-wise and in college. Added a lot overall to like my dad said overall like the storyline, but also looking at, okay, this is exactly what this student is interested, this is exactly what I was interested in, and this is exactly how I pursued it. So yeah, I can add the name of the scholarship into the chat so people can have it for reference.
Sure, yeah, thanks. That'll be helpful. So, Mr. Vasu, how do you think a student can prepare for such scholarships?
Sure. As Ria mentioned one, but there are thousands of them. I think the key is to build that, towards it. The scholarship she talked about is a highly competitive program, but that happened in the summer of a junior year. To get there, you have to utilize, your years before, while going through the high school, possibly even before. The way I look at it is when you're looking, and Mr. Durga Prasad touched on it, Uday talked about it, Ria touched on it to some extent. What the colleges are looking for is first and foremost is these are academic institutions, so there is no shortcut to that. You have to be academically strong. But fortunately, in this world, there are a lot of good, strong academic students. For example, if you look at just the US alone, for example, university like a Stanford takes students from 87 countries or so, each year. But just the US alone, you have about 10,000 public high schools, over 10,000, 14,000 or so. And then you have another 10,000 or so private schools. Even if you take one valedictorian from each school, you're talking about 25,000 valedictorians just in the US alone. And I'm not talking about the rest of the 86 countries, the Stanford or Harvard, people, colleges take. So you have to, they don't have enough seats to fill their classes, but even if they fill completely with those, academically strong. So what the colleges look for is first the academics, and the second is fundamentally, who are you as a person? And especially when it comes to these top universities in the world, they're all across the world, but especially given this conversation about Ivy League, Stanfords, MITs, Caltechs of the world, what they're looking for is a person who has a potential to not only benefit from the resources that the university brings to the table, but also have a potential to make a difference in the society. So that is the criteria goes into it. Is one is the numbers are given, you have to have it, you're strong, you don't have to be 4.0, you don't have to be 1600 SAT, but you have to be academically strong. Putting that aside, that kind of crosses the gate, you cross the gate. Then what happens is, who can benefit from my Stanford resources I bring to the table? Who would thrive in my Ivy League environment? Who could benefit from the professors I bring to the table from my whether it's Harvard, Princeton, Yale, or Dartmouth at Brown? The second thing, who has shown that they have they have placed the seeds and the personality have to really make a difference, not only take these resources, utilize them, but make a difference in the world and society. And that doesn't have to be at the world stage. It could be at the your town level, it could be at the district level, it could be at the state level, or it could be country level or world level. Whatever that happened to be, they look for things like who has the potential to excel and benefit from the resources.
Thanks, Vasu. That was really insightful. So the next question is for Mr. Durga Prasad. We see a lot of students ask this question, since they've been used to these offline classes. So how are you addressing the gap between the online and the offline classes with Turito? Mr. Durga Prasad, I think you're on mute. We're not able to hear you.
Yeah, sorry, one. Yeah. the major difference between online and offline classes is a student, can see the teacher and teacher can see the student. Eye to eye contact is there. So when this is going on, a teacher can grasp what is going on in the mind of a student, whether he or she is understanding or not, and how they are reacting to the teaching. There is observation on the student, uh, and they can interact directly. These are the major differences between online and offline. And of course, the support activities, like remedial measures, we call them as remedial measures if a student is facing a problem at all. Most of the online classes, whichever institute is conducting, all these are missing. I can say almost 100% of the institutes, these are missing. So if these things are brought into picture in the online process, or something better than these things what I mentioned, I think online system becomes much more powerful than offline system. Of course, always there will be a gap that a student and teacher cannot face each other or look at each other and cannot have direct interaction. But now, if I bring this, because I know when I say I'm talking about the Turito. So Turito knows there should be a live interaction between teacher and student. So therefore, there are various methods that have been brought. One is, chat messages, wherein the class should not be disturbed when it is going on. So one is the chat messages, and also direct, voice interaction also is available, but it is kept on hold for some time. Because we are making it much more superior or better system than what it is existing now. Though we have a system, we are holding it for maybe a few days, that's all. So that means we have chat message interaction, we have voice interaction. So apart from that, whether student is understanding or not, whether student is working on the homeworks or not, I already explained these things before. So if student is not working, we try to understand whether student is facing any problem in terms of understanding the subject and learning the subject and giving the support also. See, I used one sentence: when remedial measures are taken on the child, definitely a child will perform better. Next thing is, if child is going down psychologically, their psychology should be built up, their mindset should be made stronger. If these activities are added to regular teaching learning process, I'm sure student grows very big way. Student builds up the affinity towards the teachers, towards the organization. This affinity can create a lot of difference in the attitude of a child, because Ria being a student, she should be able to either support or reject my point. I think I'll ask her after my statement is over. So we are having these type of systems also, like psychologically we are tuning, homework we are checking, giving them the support, remedial measures we are taking, and daily tests. See, in the offline system, if a student wants to take a test, I need to create a test for the student. How many, teacher to how many students they can create a test in a day? It's impossible. But here in the online system at Turito, we have developed a system wherein system can automatically pick the questions based on the level of the child, and it can give a question paper to child. Child can test in the areas they want to check themselves, in the subject they want to check themselves, the level of their answerability, and so many aspects. Now, in the offline system, when I take a test, a teacher or a system should correct the things and then they should give the marks. Here, there is no problem with us. In online, in our system, as soon as the student takes the test and clicks the submit button, within seconds, the result is out. The analytics are out. There are so many parameters in analytics that we are doing, like how much time a student is taking to answer a question, how many of them were right, how many of them were wrong. the questions which they did right, how many others did it right or wrong, etc., etc. There are so many things. If I keep on talking, this time will not be sufficient. Whole of my time goes in explaining these things. So this much of analytical resources are provided to the children through this platform. This Turito platform and even the streaming, there is no streaming problem. I've seen so many online systems in the world, the most noted or well-known platforms. There is a lot of problem in the streaming. Clarity, the way they write on the board, a student, like I've seen in one of the case, which is, I don't like to name it online because it's not good, but one of the most famous institute in USA, a teacher is writing 5, that 5 looks like S. They write 2, the 2 is not seen as 2. Like that, there are so many problems. The 2 was looking like 1. There are so many problems in our system. All those things are not there. The best system. So if I cannot tell more on this because time is also a restriction on me. But if somebody wants to know what we're doing and how we are doing, I request all the parents and students to get into our systems, contact us, and then look at the system, look at the facilities, then decide what is right, what is wrong. So Ria, now I want to ask you the question which I was saying before. How do you think about what I said?
Yeah, thanks for that, Mr. Durga Prasad. I think Uday, do you want to add anything on this? Hello.
Yeah. No, I think the Durga Prasad sir covered. But see, the whole idea of this platform is, if you look at India, you have these big institutions. I don't want to name it, but they advertise heavily on the TV and say, we got top rankers. And they might have 100 institutions, but the top faculty is only in 2 or 3 institutions, which is giving the ranks. But the rest 97 of the institutions doesn't have a good faculty. And the parents doesn't know that. Parents think that, oh, this institutions, we have the top ranks. And the best faculty is only available to those 2 or 3 institutions. What we are addressing here is, we are bringing the top faculty. Internet is enabling, number 1. Number 2, the problem is the gap between offline and online. The biggest gap we have is the interactivity. And providing the top faculty is the big asset in that, because internet is enabling. You don't have teacher to be sitting in. We can have it from Bay Area to New York to Hyderabad. That's second, the interactivity. That's where we have put in a lot of time to ensure there is a reverse engagement from the student. So every time a concept is defined, we will take quizzes in between. There is a complete interactivity. The most important thing is, after the master class is done, we are also giving a live Q&A session with an assistant teacher addressing all their doubts. And fourth important item is the like Zoom or Teams or all. They're very good platforms, but collaborative architectures, which I come from Nortel. All my life I've been working previous to my Yupp is the collaborative architecture. But what we would bring is a combined, integrated, collaborative effort, in terms of video engagement, interactivity, everything will come under one platform. The major gap you're seeing from offline to online is filled. And most importantly, as Durga Prasad said that from offline to online, we actually capture every single metric what student is doing, from attendance to engagement to questions to how that in offline environment it is not possible. So in a way, we are trying to build the interactivity engagement as an offline, but raising the bar using the internet as a technology from a faculty perspective, from engaging student metrics perspective. Okay, thanks, Mansha. Yeah.
Thanks, Uday. So the last question for today's session, and that's for you, Uday. So what is your vision for Turito?
So basically my vision is, first is for Turito in the US, we want to be the number 1 platform to send the students to Ivy. And secondly, in terms of the India, my vision is to democratize the education for rural areas. This is the two major vision. One is getting Turito should be the #1 platform in the US to send to students to Ivy League. And also, unlike Yupp in my past startup, we focused, Inspired, we've been the pioneers in this space on the streaming technology. And very early, we started live TV in the US, even before anybody other than Netflix. But then we focused on the ethnic audience. So what my goal here is using the India and the US and build a global platform. The focus is not just the Indian students. The idea is to address the mainstream US middle school and high school kids, and India also mainstream middle school and high school kids. Also, we have done, interestingly, our team has done the homework both on the India and the US side. What are the current platforms out there? There is a Prep Scholar, Prep Expert, there is Kaplan, there is a Princeton Review. But what we have seen in the US is India, the EdTech is very way ahead in the game in terms of the technology, the companies, the education. Whereas in the US, there were two gaps we have seen. One, the platforms have been very tuned to standardized tests, and they're very traditional, and everybody is very disorganized, unlike a big leader running this. And second thing is, there's no platform who is in the US who has put together a comprehensive program like this to enable handhold the kid from 6th to 12th class. So that's the vision, Manisha. I hope.
Thanks, Uday. Before we end the session today, there are a few questions from our participants. And the first question is from Mr. Ravi Lotamula. So do you take care of admissions and counselings? I think, Mr. Durga Prasad, this question is for you. Would you like to take it?
Yeah, Mr. Ravi, we are helping students not only in admission process, right from building up ideas in the mind of child, then what all are the credits, what all are the scores that a child should have for all those things, and what would be the best path to take the child to those goals. Then starting up, building up the career, credits, then filling up the application, writing up essay, everything A to Z, what it is required for a child, that is taken up by Turito.
Thanks, Mr. Durga Prasad. I think the next question is, what is the course cost? Uday, do you want to take this question?
No, actually, yeah. So we will come back with the pricing in the next couple of weeks. Actually, the specific to the foundation courses, we will start sometime in January, but one-on-one tutoring and SAT ACT programs will be starting very soon. It will be available on the website very soon.
Thanks, Uday. The next question is from Mr. Venu. How is Turito's teaching methodology different from other tutoring institutions? Mr. Durga Prasad, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah. Mr. Venu, in my process of earlier discussions, I already mentioned a few major points. First thing is a student listening to a teacher and understanding the concepts and building up those concepts in the mind and applying those concepts to a question is very important issue. And at the same time, teacher understanding the student's mindset and guiding that child going to their level and ensure that child is comfortable with the teaching learning process is very important. This is all taken care of, which I already discussed how it is in the previous points which I mentioned. Next thing is to make the child work on what is being taught every day is very important. That is also done through DPPs. All these, maybe teaching learning process institutes may do or individuals may do, but not at the best as what we are doing at at Turito. Already Mr. Uday mentioned, we are bringing top 1% faculty onto the platform, and any child from any corner of the world can take this teaching for them. So this is not there with every platform. or the organization which is running this. Now, third thing is like after teaching, then learning of the child, then comes the testing. So before we go to a main test, we are giving them the chance to take as many tests as possible, even every day one test, which Ria mentioned, like she took so many tests before she took the main test. So that provision is there. Next, fourth thing, this daily test part is not there with anyone. Next, if somebody is weak in particular zone, a student can understand where they are weak, then can work on those areas and strengthen their weaknesses. This facility is there at Turito, but not with the other platforms. Like this, if I keep on taking, there are almost 20 points I can state where Turito is much superior to any other platform in the world.
Thanks, Mr. Durga Prasad. I think the next question is from Mr. Nikhil. Sir, I have a lot of passion and good knowledge and experimental skills, but no good profile. Then can I have a chance to get into colleges like MIT? I'm presently in class 12, sir. Mr. Vasu, would you like to take this question?
Sure. Hi, Nikhil. Excellent question, and I think that's a question I hear a lot of times in this space. As Ria kind of touched on it. There is no yes or no answer when it comes to colleges. I think the key thing to do when it comes to for the high school senior like a Nikhil at this juncture is not to worry about what you have not done, is to focus on how what you have done so far and how do you tell that story through your application and the essays. But fundamentally what you want to do besides telling the story is to expand your options. When it comes to college applications time, like a senior time, Nikhil, the key is to have more options, not less options. When you're applying to colleges, that's not the time to eliminate the options, whether it's based on the parents' input or your own input, your teacher's input, but to expand the options. The time to eliminate the options is when the decisions come back. So if you're really set on MIT, you must apply to MIT. There is definitely, if you tell the story right, put your best foot forward. That's the best thing you can do at this point. At the same time, what you want to do, you want to find what are the aspects of MIT that you like, you think would help you achieve your overall, academic and professional goals. And then you find those such environments beyond MIT, across 4,000 universities or so in the US or, outside. So, so there's no yes or no. It is possible, but it depends upon what is your rest of the story looks like.
Thanks, Vasu. I think that's all for now. I think, yeah, that's the last question from the participants today. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We indeed had some great insights and we wish Turito all the very best. And parents, I see that you have a lot of questions with regards to how you can reach us. Please reach out to us on support@turito.com and we will definitely get in touch with each and every one of you that we see here. And if there are any further queries, you can write us at support@turito.com. Thank you and have a great day. Thanks all the panelists. Thanks for taking time and joining us today. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we have a great feedback from all the participants. I see that they're saying that it's very informative. So really thankful for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for taking time out. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.